call our King Balcony View Suite. It's the largest suite type that we have, and the nice thing you'll see is it does include the outdoor balcony, so you could step out and enjoy a little bit of this nice weather. In this particular case, you're facing south and west, so you have sunset views when we have a nice day. There you go. So just west straight ahead is where the sun. These ones are just under 600 square feet at about 589 square feet. All of our suites include a pull-out sofa bed, so queen size here. If you are traveling with kids, that can work for a night or two stay, but these rooms can actually sleep up to 4. And just a few of the landmarks to point out here. Let's see. Just open that and get the full view. BC Place is right here at the end of the street, this big white stadium with a retractable rooftop. Can seat about 50,000. We've just opened up a new park here, just right in front where you see this car coming up the alleyway. That's a new urban park in Vancouver. It just opened on Friday, mainly for the kids, but a nice little attraction in downtown Vancouver. Well, one of the things I really like about this hotel is the fact that it is an all-suite hotel. Generally speaking, there are some reasons why we cannot call ourselves an all-suite hotel, but generally most of our inventory is suites like you see here, a one-bedroom suite with a separate living room and bedroom area, starting with a queen suite, and they are actually fairly sizable rooms. They start at about 450 square feet and go all the way up to just about 600 square feet. This particular suite that we're in now, which is a deluxe king city view balcony room, or suite, pardon me, is just under 600 square feet at 589. So for that reason alone, you definitely get a more spacious accommodation than a typical hotel room, which would be a hotel bed and credenza area and desk area. You have that separation of the bedroom from the living room, which is something that I like. Other things that make this hotel unique, like we just saw, the balconies. We have 2 per floor available. And so all the way up the corners, either the 03, which is this particular suite facing southwest, or the 09 suite, which is facing northeast on the other side of the building. So some great options there to be able to sit outdoors and enjoy some of the Vancouver scenery and the weather. Otherwise, I love the location of this hotel. If you're coming to stay for a concert or a sporting event or any type of event that's going on at one of the venues nearby, BC Place is just at the end of the block, about 2 blocks away. Rogers Arena, where they play hockey and have concerts, is also about only 3-4 blocks away. Plenty of different venues within this area for concerts, nightlife. There's great dining and restaurants nearby in Yaletown, which is only a 5-minute walk. So basically right out your front door you have everything you need. So location and the size of the rooms and the suites that we have are probably 2 of the biggest pluses that I like about this hotel. The hotel itself is kind of an interesting shape. This is the hotel here. We're in this room, the 03. We used to be the Westin Grand Hotel, and the reason we were called the Grand Hotel is because we were shaped like a grand piano. If you could imagine the player playing the keys here, and this would be, typically where they open up the top of the piano. So an interesting musical shape, and then throughout the hotel we still kept a lot of the features, such as the meeting rooms that are named after symphony, allegro, rondo, concerto, different musical notes and scores and stuff. The hotel itself was actually going to be developed as a condo facility originally. And so they started developing it, and eventually they turned it into a strata hotel. So all of the units are owned by individual owners, with our actual owners of the hotel owning something like 70-75% of the units. They are hoping to buy up the complete set of units, and then they can, ideally, I think their plan would be to de-stratify it and then basically have it a privately owned hotel. It's an interesting ownership. So basically, if you owned a suite here, you were allowed to use it for so many weeks or so many periods per year. It's probably a total of 15 to 20 days in total, maybe 21, about 3 weeks or so. But every time you use that, you're taken out of the rental pool. And what you do is, if the hotel's doing well enough, the strata would earn a dividend or a payout each month. And ideally, the idea would be to pay them enough that it covers their mortgage. So eventually when they go to sell, they can earn a profit, but they haven't paid any mortgage if the hotel is doing well enough. Yeah. Those times prior to COVID, we were there and everybody was getting paid, everybody was enjoying. Then COVID hit and things changed, but now things have really come back very, very quickly. As soon as the restrictions lifted in Canada, with American tourists coming in, whether driving over the border or flying in, or any people from outside of Canada, any foreign travelers coming in, the lack of need to be tested and at the border and all those restrictions had been lifted, and just the volume of business has gone just through the roof, really. Things like cruise ships haven't been in town in 2 years in Canada during COVID, and just it was late April here that we had our first cruise ship return, and so just to see the influx of passengers coming back for things like that happened very, very quickly. So that's great. Yeah. But now hotels and a lot of businesses are finding the problem, the flip side of that is great that the business has returned, but finding staff to be able to manage it has become an issue. Whereas you will see that, for example, some days during the week we've closed our restaurant because we just don't have enough staff to service it. I mean, there are a lot of patrons coming in, but we simply don't have enough staff to be able to service that lunch hour period. So there have been a few cutbacks. Things like room service has been eliminated for the time being. We hope to be able to bring that back, but again, that's a staffing service issue. Okay, so our fitness facility, open 24 hours, which is nice. People traveling from different time zones and might be a bit jet lagged can go for a workout at any time. Open 24 hours. All this equipment was redone back in 2017 when we refurnished the hotel. Some of the nice aspects of the fitness facility. Here we have a unisex sauna, and then in each of the men's and women's change rooms, you'll find a separate steam room. So steam room and sauna. After a nice workout to help your muscles unwind a little. This way we'll go. Our outdoor pool is heated year-round, open year-round. It is actually a saltwater pool, so it's actually better for the environment than would be a chlorine-based pool or bromine-based pool. They use salt water and less chemicals. It's less harsher on your skin for bathers that are using it. Yeah, open from 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. daily.
So what do they do to maintain a saltwater pool?
That's a good question. They do have big bags of salt that every so often you'll see they cut open and put the salt in. No swimming during that time, and then they basically just balance it, and the salt water helps maintain the same thing that the chlorine would do, is with the oils and stuff from people's body and whatnot. It eliminates all that, and so it's also better, as I mentioned, for the environment by not having to put chemicals into the system.
Is that common here in Vancouver to have saltwater pools?
Common, there are some for sure. We have a few outdoor public pools, for example, Kitsilano Beach Pool. It's closed right now because it's having some repairs, but that particular pool, it's a city-run pool. It's at Kitsilano Beach. There's also one out at Stanley Park, which I think is Third Beach pool, and that's also a saltwater pool. Those are kind of outdoor pools and like really, really big ones. So outdoor pools, saltwater versions are fairly common, but having them in a hotel is not as common. I believe we might be only one of two in the city that have a saltwater pool. Vancouver is actually a very, very environmental city. If you're unaware, Greenpeace was started here many, many, many years ago in the 60s, and Save the Whales was started here as well. So there's a very big environmental movement from British Columbia, and Vancouver was the epicenter of a lot of that if you kind of go back and look at the history of it all. So
from a cost basis, is it cheaper to maintain a saltwater pool?
I believe so, yes. I'm not 100% sure of that, but because you're not paying for chemicals like bromine or chlorine, you're only paying for salt water, and then they just use it to balance the pH levels, I think it is. So yeah, it's much less expensive
so
than...
I can imagine that must be a big selling point for you, because a lot of people are very conscious of what they're spending swimming in.
We do note it in various like brochures and literature and stuff, but I haven't had a lot of people, comment on it. But when it is brought up, they're like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." Vancouver's got a lot of diverse ethnic restaurants, and all within a very small area. You were in Gastown, which is near Chinatown today. A lot of great restaurants down in Gastown. Robson Street, which we're located on, towards that end, which would be going west, is a lot more shopping, kind of some smaller boutiques, but bigger named, like Lululemon, Gap, Banana Republic, Aritzia, which is a local brand as well. So that's down that way, which is more shopping. Along this way, a little bit more towards the food line, more restaurants. And then as you get to the end, you see BC Place, which is again where they have lots of big concerts in the stadium there. And then Yaletown is only, if you go down any of these blocks, take a right and go down 2 blocks, and that's the start of Yaletown, which was actually a historic district. That's where the trains used to come in. And if you're in Yaletown, if you were there today, you'll notice that a lot of the buildings are sort of raised up about, probably about this high, about 4 or 5 feet, because the trains would come in and they would open their cars, and then in these Yaletown was the warehouse district, would just load in all the goods onto the trains, and then they would zip off again. So that's kind of the history behind that.
So where were you born and raised?
Born and raised in Vancouver. I've lived in Toronto when I was much younger. I was only about 10, and I've lived in Singapore for about 8 months when I was working with another hotel. But that was kind of a training kind of session. In terms of transportation, very progressive city for transportation here. Vancouver's already adopted a shared bike program, so you can go to any of these stations here in town. There's one directly across the street at the library, and you can get what's called a Mobi, M-O-B-I, okay. And it's a shared bike system. You just basically put in your app or whatever, and it'll charge you X many, unless you have like a membership. You can get that. There's also shared car programs. Evo is one of them, where basically you can, again, use the app, you jump on, you choose this car, and it'll charge you for how much usage you've
You just leave it wherever you want.
Yep, exactly. Getting in from the airport's very, very easy. You just jump on the train. If you have your little roller bag, the hotel's not that far. Here it's not so bad, and there, generally speaking, is enough parking, whether it's on the street or in any of the lots. You're never really going to not be able to find a parking space. You could complain about the traffic in Vancouver, which Vancouver, one thing doesn't have is a very good highway system to get everybody out from the suburbs into the city, or back out that way, because the highway system is sort of further out before you really hit it. Whereas I would agree with that. There is a fair amount of traffic in the city because they never really wanted it to be like a car driving city. You'll even see bike lanes, like this path over here where it's green. You can see that's a bike lane. They've started to add lots of bike lanes. The bikes, they're not the kindest of people. They'll tell you about it too, right?
Yeah, they have horns.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, take it easy. You're not paying taxes for this bike lane, and I am, so settle down. But we managed to coexist, I guess. So that's one of the things they've implemented, the bike lanes. There's often been talk about no more traffic, or no more traffic in downtown Vancouver. I don't think they could get that one to work because it hasn't really been fully thought out. But there is talk about no more. So on one day you'd have odd license plates, on the next day you would have even license plates. And I think even that is still a long ways off before they can get that to work.
Well, downtown Vancouver has grown so much, because it used to be, I had heard that maybe 1,000 people lived in the downtown area, and it is now 100,000.
I've worked at this hotel for many, many years, and that building wasn't here, that building wasn't here, this building wasn't here, the building behind it. So yes, you're absolutely right. A lot of these condominium buildings and high-rise buildings have only gone up in the last 8 to 10, maybe 12 years. Certainly within 15 years, a lot of this just was not developed as of yet. So yeah, downtown's population has quite literally exploded over the last 15 to 20 years. We also have an unfortunate fair problem with homelessness in Vancouver. If you were in Gastown, you're very close to an area called the Downtown East Side, which is a very poor area, and a lot of kind of poor and destitute people are living there on the streets and stuff. Unfortunately, a bit of a drug problem here, being that we are a coastal or a port city. We've got a lot of drugs coming in and stuff. So yeah, we've got a lot of growing pains, because I think the city has grown so quickly. You know, we don't, touch wood, we don't have problems where, you know, somebody's attacking a tourist. We have had where lately, since the pandemic, more and more quote-unquote stranger assaults, where people have mental illness and they might be using drugs and stuff. You just got to be aware of your senses of where you're going. You know, if you're in this area, in you know, the downtown area, Yaletown, all of that, you're perfectly fine. Venturing over to that area at the wrong time may not be your wisest decision.
Well, a lot of cities have that.
Yeah.
Vancouver's not alone.
It's just that the city's grown so quickly, and a lot of people have sort of been left behind, right? So again, we follow this sort of musical theme throughout the hotel. This is called the Symphony Room. This is our largest room here. It's currently set for a meeting for, I believe, tomorrow, but one of the nice things about our particular meeting space is we have this floor-to-ceiling windows, which nowadays is something that a lot of people having meetings are looking for, whereas typically in the past a lot of hotels were built with the meeting space right in the center, and there was no windows in there and stuff. So this is more sort of along the lines of the new age, new way of doing things. And there's a great shot, as I said, with sort of the Roman Colosseum architecture of the Vancouver Public Library. So Hendricks is actually a nod to Jimi Hendrix, albeit it's not spelled Hendrix, because that would get us into trouble with the company holding Mr. Jimi Hendrix's will and all. Would get us in trouble with copyright laws and all. But our owner is a big fan of Jimi Hendrix, and hence you see things like this here, where he's got the Love Is My Drug and the Jimi Hendrix print there.
Do you have any special drinks named after Jimi Hendrix?
No, we used to have one which was called the Zimmer Margarita, which was named after our owner, which is, his name is Azim, so we did the Zimmer Margarita. But nothing specific to a Jimi Hendrix nod drink. But plenty of wines on tap, cocktails, as well as beer. Lots of different options.
More cocktails on the back too. I think the Zimmer's still on there.
Oh yeah, the Zimmer Margarita. The grilled pork chop. It's a big bone-in pork chop. It's a local farms that does it, and there's a peach spicy kind of like a jam with it. If that's your thing, perfect. Otherwise, just the pork chop on its own. It's very nice. Beautiful presentation on it too. The braised short rib, if you like beef, it's been kind of slow roasting, usually for about 8 to 12 hours.
The Malbec comes from obviously Argentina. That's where they grow the best. And so it's got a little bit more of a blueberry kind of flavor to it. But the Garden of Granite, like their location, is just over in North Vancouver. Then we have the border town here. It's just a blended Merlot, simple house wine. And then the Indigenous Winery, also from the Okanagan, the blend of Pinot Gris and Sauv Blanc. With 5% Muscat. So it's got a touch of sweetness, but Pinot Gris is dry, right? A little drier. And then the Sauv Blanc with the grassiness, so you get all of it. You get a lot of stone fruit and the grass, and then a little bit of sweetness from the Muscat. You just basically steam it to make sure that you're not putting too much water in there, because you don't want to water down your wines. So you just give it a little quick steam. That just takes out all the imperfections, spots, things like that. Also do the bottom and the stem, down like that. So this is your Bordeaux glass. All right, so the Malbec first. That's 6 ounces.